Thank you, Chair, and thank you to all the speakers. Look, I find this really fascinating, and I'm kind of instinctively positively predisposed towards this as a concept. So any questions I have will be coming from that space. Just on the green zones, I know it's not mentioned, but I think it's implicit that when you have a green zone, if that was to appear, a number of green zones merged together in a newspaper or media article, that the other spaces would probably be shaded in red and would become red zones at some point. So would you have any concerns about the psychological impact on people who are living in areas that aren't green zones? And I'm just, in particular, I was speaking with my colleague, Senator Mark Wall from Kildare, the experience of people who've gone back into lockdown in Kildare and Laois and Offaly. You know, Mark was telling me that he had to get in touch with local services to reach out to particularly older people and vulnerable people who really found this quite a bracing and worrying experience. So just in terms of the green zones and red, how do you think that will impact?
Thank you. So certainly this whole disease has significant mental health implications, and part of the strategy that we're proposing here, I suppose, is the idea of giving people a goal that they can work towards. And while we would recognise that there would be negative implications of being in a red zone, the idea is that we all have the shared goal of getting to green. And the other thing maybe that we hadn't clarified is that the idea is that while these zones would be at county level, once you're in a green zone, you can then move to other green zones. And so over time, Ireland as a whole will go from red to green. And so in terms of absolutely the hardship that people will face if they're currently in a red zone, they will at least see that this is something we will make very clear, the steps that need to be put in place, and that there's something that they can work towards.
In terms of the division of a green zone, say county by county basis, but in terms of the cities, would the cities be classed as, you know, an entire county? Or let's say someone where I'm North County Dublin, if there's a cluster up there in Swords, does that mean Dundrum and Dunleary are shut down as well? Or how would that work?
So certainly what we're proposing at present is that it would be at county level and that we wouldn't be getting more granular than that. But over time, that might be something that we would need to consider.
Okay. Just to be clear, is Dublin a county or is Fingal a county? I'm not being smart, but like, you know, Dublin's third of the population live in Greater Dublin, more or less. So is Dublin, County Dublin, the old County Dublin, a county, or is it Fingal, Dunleary, Rathdown, Dublin City?
From my perspective, it is Fingal, Rathdown, Dublin City and South Dublin. I think that's where we would start. And we might well go very quickly to North Dublin City and South Dublin City.
Okay, thank you. And just Professor Staines, just on the testing at airports, are there any examples of where this is done well that could be applied here? And also, in terms of the testing, tracking and tracing regime and how that would have to be put on a standing footing or a more permanent footing, can you just give us a view of what that would look like? Is it call centres or, you know, officers, people going around in cars? How would that look to people?
Well, if I may, I'll answer your first question and pass the second on to my colleague, Prof. Carney, who's actually done work in the tracing centres and is very familiar with them. So there are different regimes in different countries of testing at airports, and honestly, I don't know which ones work best. There are a number of people in Ireland who are real testing experts, and I would look to them for guidance, further guidance on that. If I could pass over to Prof. Carney.
So in terms of the contact tracing, so I ordinarily work in UCC full-time as an academic, but was seconded to the health service early in March to assist with the efforts, and some of my work was around contact tracing. And there it literally is speaking to the individuals as they test positive and going through their movements over the previous 2 weeks to assess who they've been in contact with and who those potential contacts are, and then going on and doing a bit of...
Sorry, Ms. Kearney, just thanks. So just to be clear, I understand how it's worked thus far. So is the intention that what has been done thus far would continue in that same style and structure, or would it be a different style and structure going forward? Sorry, that was my question. I probably wasn't clear enough in how I asked it.
Apologies. So One of the things that's happened here is that we've had to scale up the approach very rapidly and instituted a kind of a national system, and then that has been implemented differently, or at least it's been implemented locally. So I think we would need to think very carefully about what processes would be put in place to make sure that we use all the expertise that exists within the individual departments of public health around the country and really build on that expertise. The national system is excellent in terms of the straightforward cases, but a lot of the work then in terms of the more complex settings such as nursing homes is undertaken by the departments where the expertise exists. So we need to really build on that existing system.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the entire panel. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Dan O'Brien wanted to come in in response to that question.
Just something Professor Staines mentioned a while ago in terms of resources for testing. Just a comment on the bang for buck, so to speak, from investing in testing. It seems from the medical experts here and elsewhere that testing and tracing is absolutely vital in defeating this. If that's the case, and the cost of that is millions or even tens of millions, that needs to be put in the context of billions of euro for income support, tens of billions of euro in lost output, lost wealth creation, and a public debt that is heading towards €250 billion by the end of next year. So if this is as successful and is as vital as there seems to be consensus amongst medical experts, it is a very good investment, and everything the kitchen sink should be thrown at it.